Hi everyone, today we will be exploring the significance of Roman architecture. Roman architecture represents one of the most influential achievements in ancient history, shaping not only the world of the Romans but the design of modern cities and buildings today. In this presentation, we will explore how Roman architecture combined engineering innovation with artistic elegance to create structures that were both functional and visually stunning. We'll examine iconic structures like the Baths of Caracalla, aqueducts, circuses, and discuss cultural significance and lasting impacts of these achievements. To begin, let's take a closer look at the foundational innovations that enabled Roman architecture.
Roman architecture is known for its arches, domes, and concrete to create large-scale public structures. It is a continuation of the legacy left behind by Greek architects. The Romans were innovators, combining new construction techniques, materials, and design expertise to make a wide range of original architectural structures. Many of these innovations were in response to changing practical needs of the Roman society. These innovative projects were funded, organized, and spread across the Roman globe by a state apparatus. Common innovative Roman buildings consisted of the Basilica, Triumphal Arch, Monumental Aqueduct, and the Amphitheater. While it is true that the Romans were very innovative, they still continued to follow the guidelines previously established by Greek classical orders, especially the Corinthian.
Architecture and construction developments of the Romans. The importance of the Roman period. When we talk about the importance of the Roman period in architecture, we're really talking about the foundation of much of Western architectural and engineering traditions. The Romans weren't just copying the Greeks, they were transforming architecture into something larger, more practical, and more advanced. One major contribution was establishing the engineering principles that later shaped European and eventually American architecture. Their use of formal planning, structural logic, and standardized construction techniques influenced everything from Renaissance palaces to modern civic buildings. Architects like Vitruvius, whose work became essential during the Renaissance, laid out principles of strength, function, and beauty that are still referenced today. The Romans also introduced key technologies: arches, vaults, domes, and concrete. These innovations allowed them to build on a much larger scale than the Greeks. Structures like the Pantheon with its massive concrete dome and the Colosseum with its layered arches and vaults show how Roman technology opened the door for monumental interiors and expansive public spaces. Another major impact of the Roman period is the creation of new building types. The Basilica became the model for churches, the amphitheater influenced modern stadiums, aqueducts reshaped water systems, and public baths became centers of community life. These forms spread across Europe and the Mediterranean, helping establish a shared architectural language. Roman architecture was also used as political propaganda. Emperors built grand monuments and public works to project power, stability, and generosity. Triumph arches, large forums, and massive public buildings reinforced authority and created unity among citizens. Finally, Roman innovations in city planning, such as grid layouts, roads, and infrastructure systems, set standards for urban design. Cities like Timgad in Algeria showed just how modern Roman planning feels, with straight streets, organized districts, and public services. Altogether, the Roman period is essential because it laid the groundwork for how we design, build, and organize cities, even today. The next slide, social developments, focuses on how social changes in Rome shaped the rise of monumental architecture. As the population grew, especially in major urban centers like Rome, Carthage, and Antioch, the city needed more spaces where people could gather, interact, and participate in civic life. This demand drove the construction of massive public buildings. Baths, theaters, temples, and markets became essential parts of everyday life. For example, the Baths of Caracalla weren't just for bathing. They included gyms, libraries, lecture halls, and gardens. The Theater of Marcellus brought thousands together for plays and performances. These buildings were designed to serve social needs while displaying the sophistication of Roman engineering. Another major social development was the unification of diverse cultures across the empire. Whether someone lived in Spain, North Africa, or Syria, they saw the same types of structures, basilicas, baths, and amphitheaters. This helped newly conquered populations adopt Roman customs and lifestyles. Architecture essentially became a tool of cultural blending and social integration. Overall, Roman architecture responded directly to the social fabric of the empire. It provided public spaces for gathering, entertainment, hygiene, religion, and trade, things that supported a massive multicultural population. Technological advancements. This slide covers the core technologies that allowed Roman architecture to reach levels never seen before. The biggest innovation was Roman concrete, or opus cementitium. Concrete allowed builders to form walls, vaults, platforms, and domes quickly and efficiently. Structures like the Pantheon and Pontugard Aqueduct showed just how durable this material was. With concrete came more advanced forms like arches, vaults, and domes. Arches distributed weight efficiently, crucial for large buildings like the Colosseum. Barrel and groin vaults created massive interior spaces without needing rows of columns. And domes allowed centralized spaces, with the Pantheon being the best surviving example. The Romans also standardized brickwork and construction techniques. Modular bricks made building faster and more predictable, and the military helped spread these standards across the empire. That's why Roman forts in Britain look structurally similar to those in the Near East. Advanced tools and machines, cranes, winches, pulleys, and scaffolding allowed materials to be lifted and set in ways earlier civilizations couldn't achieve. This made large-scale projects possible. Finally, Rome excelled in infrastructure engineering. Aqueducts, sewers, roads, and drainage systems allowed their cities to function smoothly. These innovations made Roman urban life cleaner, more efficient, and more connected. Key figures. Some of the most influential figures who shaped Roman architecture and engineering are Vitruvius, Emperor Augustus, Emperor Trajan, Emperor Hadrian, and Apollodorus of Damascus. First up is Vitruvius, whose book De Architectura is the only surviving architectural treatise from the ancient world. His ideas on proportion, structure, and design influenced not only Roman builders but Renaissance architects like Alberti and Palladio over 1,000 years later. His principles of strength, utility, and beauty continue to guide architectural theory today. Next are the emperors who funded the major building programs. Augustus transformed Rome with marble buildings, forums, and monuments that symbolized peace and prosperity. Trajan expanded the empire and built one of the most ambitious architectural complexes in history: Trajan's Forum, Trajan's Market, and Trajan's Column. Hadrian personally designed buildings and pushed architectural boundaries with projects like the Pantheon and his sprawling villa at Tivoli. Finally, Apollodorus of Damascus, Trajan's chief architect, was one of the greatest engineers of the empire. He designed Trajan's Forum and Market, huge complexes with advanced structural innovations. He also built the Danube Bridge, an engineering feat that helped Trajan conquer Dacia. Apollodorus combined technical mastery with monumental design, and his work heavily influenced the look of Imperial Rome. Together, these figures shaped Roman architectural identity through theory, political power, and engineering innovation.
Imagine stepping into a vast oval of stone, where cheers once rose for gladiators, beasts, emperors, and the entire Roman populace. This is the world of the Roman amphitheater, beginning in the late Republic and reaching full expression in the early Empire. The amphitheater became one of Rome's most iconic architectural typologies. According to Doge, the amphitheater is perhaps the single most instinctively Roman form of architecture. In terms of social role, these structures function not merely as entertainment venues, but they were stages of imperial power, social control, and public spectacle. As Hansen argues, their architecture itself conveyed message of hierarchy, order, and communal identity. The seating hierarchies, the grand entrances, and the routing of spectators signal who belonged where and why. From an architectural standpoint, the Romans innovated extensively. The sweeping ellipse of the arena, the vaulted corridors beneath the seating, which is known as the cavea, and the use of concrete. The arches and barrel vaults allowed for unprecedented scale and durability. Welch, which notes that the amphitheater's combination of cultural institutionalization, efficiency of organization, and lavishness of production made it uniquely Roman. Turning to regional manifestations in places such as Madrid in Spain, the amphitheater served local provincial populations, yet manifested the same principles of Rome's architectural language and power. In Tarragona, similarly, the building stood as evidence that the Roman spectacle and the Roman way of building extended across the empire. Finally, the legacy of these buildings persists through the games have long since ceased, the stone shells remain, inviting us to ask, what did they mean to Romans? How did architecture shape experience? These oval arenas stand not just as monuments of past cruelty or entertainment, but as statements of civic ambition, engineering mastery, and social ritual.
To begin, it's important to note that public bathing was not originally a Roman idea. Ancient Greek towns did have public baths, which were typically limited to modest hip baths, which were small, simple installations with none of the grandeur we associate with Roman bathing culture. The Romans took this basic concept and expanded it dramatically, transforming bathing into a sophisticated cultural and architectural experience. Soon, elaborate bath complexes became standard features not only in major cities, but even in smaller towns throughout the Roman world, often placed near the Forum, the heart of the urban city. When we look at Roman baths, we are not just looking at ordinary buildings. These were massive, multi-story complexes with striking architectural design. These baths played a major role in everyday Roman life. People didn't just go there to get clean, they went to socialize, relax, and even heal. Most every Roman city has its own bath complex, and their layout and operation were shaped by earlier Greek and Hellenistic bathing traditions. Today, the legacy of these structures is still with us. Ruins of baths are scattered across Europe and parts of North Africa, offering archaeologists and visitors alike to window in Roman daily life, architectural skill, and technological prowess. These sites remain some of the most fascinating and popular reminders of how advanced and how influential the Romans truly were. This quote from James Hilton reads, "I often think that the Romans were fortunate. Their civilization reached as far as hot baths without touching the fatal knowledge of machinery. The Romans were astonishingly advanced when it came to their bath complexes, known as the thermae. These baths were not simply places to wash, but impressive feats of engineering, architecture, and social organization. They featured innovative technologies such as hypercaust, which is an underfloor heating system that circulated hot air beneath floors and through walls to create evenly heated rooms, something unmatched in Europe for centuries after Rome's decline. Large aqueduct systems supplied baths with constant flow of fresh water, supporting vast complexes like the Baths of Caracalla, which could host thousands of people and featured vaulted ceilings, marble decorations, and intricate mosaics. One of the most impressive aspects of Roman baths was the architectural innovation they inspired. These complexes required large, open, and durable interior spaces, which pushed Roman engineers to master and refine the use of domes, arches, and colonnades. Their construction relied on millions of fireproof terracotta bricks, and once completed, the baths were truly magnificent, featuring intricate mosaic floors, marble-lined walls, and decorative statues that conveyed both luxury and Roman artistic achievements. Inside, the baths were laid out with sophisticated sequence of rooms, including cold frigarium, warm tepidarium, and hot calidarium, along with exercises areas and swimming pools, all designed to promote relaxation and health. The Romans also demonstrated remarkable skills in water management, including networks of pipes, drains, and circulation systems to maintain usable water for crowds of visitors. Beyond their technical brilliance, Romans played a central role in their daily life. They were places to socialize, conduct businesses, exercise, relax, and enjoy a sense of community. In many ways, they functioned as the ancient world's version of modern recreation centers, health spas, and social clubs all in one. In certain locations, natural conditions made these bath complexes even more extraordinary. For example, Roman engineers took advantage of hot mineral springs, some bubbling up to the temperature above 104 Fahrenheit. In most cases, a singular spring could produce more than 300,000 gallons of water each day, feeding the pools and streams rooms that formed the heart of the Roman bathing experience. Built between 212 and 216 AD during the reign of Emperor Caracalla, this enormous bath complex covered roughly 33 acres, making it one of the largest public bathhouses ever constructed. When visitors stepped inside, they entered a world design on awe-inspiring scale. The central building alone soared over 30 meters high, supported by massive concrete vaults, which were structures so advanced that they influenced architectural designs for centuries. What makes baths of Caracalla truly remarkable was their ingenious engineering. This entire complex relied on vast systems of aqueducts, cisterns, and underground tunnels. Water was supplied by a dedicated aqueduct, the Aqua Marcia, and stored in an enormous reservoir capable of holding millions of gallons. Beneath the floors ran the sophisticated hypocaust heating system where hundreds of slaves tended furnaces that circulated hot air under floors and through the walls. This allowed the baths to maintain a series of temperature-cooled rooms, from the icy frigarium to the warm tempradarium and finally steaming caldarium, all functioning seamlessly for thousands of daily visitors. But the baths of Caracalla were far more than just a place to bathe. They were a social and cultural powerhouse of Roman life. Within the complex, people could swim in the vast pools, exercise in open-air courtyards, stroll through the gardens, or relax in rooms decorated with colorful mosaics, marble sculptures, and elaborate frescoes. The baths also housed libraries, lecture halls, and meeting spaces, making them a center for learning, conversation, and recreation. For more Romans, a visit to Caracalla baths was an essential part of their everyday life, a chance to bathe, socialize, and participate in the rhythm of the community. Even in ruin, the baths of Caracalla continue to inspire. Their towering remains still stand in Rome today, offering a powerful glimpse in the ambition, sophistication, and creativity of Roman civilization. They remind us that these sculptures were not only feats of engineering brilliance, but also places where people gathered, exchanged ideas, and lived together. In every sense, the baths of Caracalla were, and remain, one of the great triumphs of Roman architecture and culture.
Now let's shift your attention from spectacle governance to the story of Roman Basilica. In the cities of the Roman Empire, the Basilica emerged as a central building for public life. A large rectangular hall, usually with a high central nave and side aisles ending in the apse, as ancient Rome explains. These basilicas served the civic, judicial, and religious needs of society. Their importance was not only functional but symbolic. The former basilica embodied the Roman ideals of order and civic assembly. It was argued that the basilica, along with the forum, was a political symbol, the physical manifestation of civic assembly. Also, architecturally, the basic basilica leveraged Roman engineering, which was concrete columns, vaulted ceilings, clerestory windows, but its real innovation was spatial, a clear central axis, which is also known as a nave, a hierarchical volume, and an apse that gave prominence to the official or magistrate. According to the Dyer, the transition of the basilica into Christian was used under consonant retain, which was this architectural form, which was known as the church basilica, which followed the model of Roman civic basilicas and audience halls. The metamorphosis is compelling as Corinth. The basilica's extent which is the extant backs before they became architectural symbols of Christian faith. In other words, what began as a space of commerce, law, and public business became a prototype for Christian church buildings.
The Merida Roman Circus, also known as Circo Romano de Merida, was an ancient Roman chariot arena used for a chariot race. The circus was constructed around 25 BC, built around the time when Augusta and Merida, known as present-day Spain, was one of the colonies of the Roman Empire. It had measurables of about 403 meters long by 96.5 meters wide, and had an approximate seating capacity of 30,000 people. The circus saw more use compared to other Roman structures in Merida after the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the spread of Christianity across Spain. Races and athletic games that took place there in the circus were viewed as less simple compared to other spectacles, like the theater. The circus went through many restorations and extensions, which is proof of the vast support that the people dwelling in the city have for the circus. The circus was located outside the walls of the city. It took advantage of the slope that the San Alvin Hill had before arriving at the banks of the Albergues River. The floor plan of the circus was rectangular in shape, with the southeast end forming a semicircle where the Porta Pompei, or the entrance, was located. The northwest end was rectangular with rounded angles. This is where the caceres, or the starting gates, were located. The sides of the circus were occupied by grandstands, likely structured in the same way the Roman theaters were. The stands in the arena were separated by a podium. Sponsors were located on one axis of the stands, while the opposite side hosted the judges' stand. The area was cut at its center by the spina. Large voids located in the spina serve as a sort of reminder that the circus at one point was decorated with obelisks and colossal statues.
The Circus of Tarragona, Spain. Historical context. The Circus of Tarragona was one of the most important Roman circuses outside of Italy. It was built in the late 1st century CE during a time when the Roman Empire was heavily investing in monumental public architecture across its provinces. Tarragona, known in antiquity as Tarraco, was the capital of Hispania Citerior, which made it a major administrative and political hub in Roman Spain. Because of that status, the city received large-scale imperial investments, including temples, forums, and this circus. The circus itself was used primarily for chariot racing, which was the most popular spectator sport in the Roman world. Just like the Circus Maximus in Rome, races in Tarragona attracted huge crowds and played an important role during festivals and public celebrations. What makes the Circus of Tarragona especially significant is its state of preservation. Many circuses across Europe only survive as outlines, but Tarragona still has extensive vaulted corridors, seating foundations, and inner structures intact. Another unique feature is its location. The circus was built inside of the city center, which is extremely rare for Roman circuses. Most were placed outside of city walls because of the massive land requirement. Its placement inside Tarraco reflects the city's high status and the need to integrate major entertainment architecture directly into the urban core. Overall, the circus highlights both the cultural importance of chariot racing and the architectural ambition of Roman provincial cities. Architecture and engineering. This slide focuses on how the Circus of Tarragona was designed and engineered, and why it stands out compared to the other Roman circuses. First, the scale of the building is impressive for a provincial city. It held 20,000 to 25,000 spectators, making it one of the largest entertainment structures in Roman Hispania. The track measured around 325 meters long, which is shorter than the Circus Maximus, but still large enough for full chariot races. What makes Tarragona unique is its urban placement. Because the circus was built inside the city center and pressed up against existing buildings, Roman engineers had to get creative. Instead of sprawling outward, they built upward and inward, using multi-level vaulted substructures to support the seating and to fit the structure into Tarragona's dense urban grid. These vaults, many of which still survive, served as corridors, storage spaces, and circulation routes. The structure was built using opus cementitium, or Roman concrete. This material allowed architects to span large distances and create stable, fire-resistant vaults. The circus also featured a sophisticated crowd management system with stairways, vomitoria, and passageways that ensured tens of thousands of spectators could move in and out efficiently. Overall, the Circus of Tarragona showcases Roman engineering flexibility. They adapted a massive entertainment building to a tight urban site without sacrificing scale, function, or safety. That adaptability is one of the reasons Roman architecture endured for so long. Social, cultural, and political impact. This slide explains how the circus wasn't just an entertainment venue. It played a key role in Roman society, culture, and politics. Socially, the Circus of Tarragona hosted a Ludi Circenses, or circus games, which were the most attended public in the Roman world. Chariot races were held on festival days and drew massive crowds from all levels of society. Seating was arranged by social rank, so the circus reflected the social order, but also brought the entire community together. Races were intense and emotional, with fans supporting different factions, the blues, greens, reds, and whites. Culturally, the circus helped spread Roman customs and shared traditions. Provinces like Hispania were incredibly diverse, and events like chariot races created a unified Roman identity. These spectacles were tied to religious festivals honoring the gods, so participating in them reinforced Roman civic religion as well. Politically, the circus served as a stage for imperial power. Statues and monuments on the Spina often depicted emperors, victories, or divine symbols meant to remind the crowd of Rome's strength and generosity. Hosting races was a way for local governors to win public approval and display loyalty to the emperor. Just the presence of such a grand circus inside the city communicated Tarraco's importance within the empire. Overall, the Circus of Tarragona wasn't just a sports arena, it was a social engine, a cultural unifier, and a political tool that helped to reinforce Roman rule in the provinces.
Roman aqueducts were large-scale water supply systems built to bring clean fresh water from rivers and streams to towns and cities. These aqueducts used gravity and long slopes to move water dozens of miles. Rome alone had 11 major aqueducts that spanned over 300 miles, the most famous being the Pont du Gard in southern France near Nimes. Aqueducts were built above and below ground, with 60% of all of them being constructed underground, only going above ground to span creeks, valleys, rivers, and in special cases connect directly into the walls of buildings in their city. They were constructed using rock and Roman concrete and used gradual slopes spanning countless miles to keep the flow of water maintained. The underground tunnels were typically called cuniculi, while the water channel was called a spaco. When constructed above ground, the Romans built arcades or long rows of arches to bridge the gaps and connect other aqueducts to each other or connect them to buildings. Aqueducts changed daily life in Roman cities for the better. They provided clean drinking water, supplied the city's bathhouses, improved sanitation, and reduced disease throughout the cities. They also had economic impacts by being engines for economic growth. Aqueducts helped large-scale industries such as mills and grain processing, tanneries, textile production, metalworking, and also provided irrigation for numerous farms. They also provided great jobs for the people of the cities they lived in and also supported big populations and helped the Romans sustain over 1 million people. Aqueducts were also a symbol of Roman power. It showed a mastery of concrete work and hydraulic engineering. They also demonstrated the stability and wealth of Rome. Politically, emperors would gain prestige by constructing or repairing aqueducts. This is because they supplied water, kept the people happy, and made urban life better. Additionally, they strengthened the legitimacy of the government in the people's eyes. Overall, aqueducts helped build the Roman Empire and inspired countless others to construct and plan aqueduct systems centuries later. David Macaulay said it best in his book, Building Big, published in 2000, Roman aqueducts stand as bold reminders that the ancient engineers understood both function and beauty. They made necessity magnificent.
Thank you for tuning into our presentation today. We truly appreciate the opportunity to share these ideas with you, and I hope the insights we explored will spark further thought and discussion.